Welcome to Livestream. Woo! That was a close one. That was a close one. I have my drink. All ready to go. Got to have a drink on the live stream. You can't talk for 2 hours without a drink. And then I realized I forgot it, and I had to have Mrs. JB bring it. So, woo! That was a close one. Whew. That's not an adult beverage, I'm afraid. Oh, it's not an adult beverage. It is a non-adult beverage. Oxyprod says, I've never gotten JB to answer anything because I only see he's streaming like halfway in and there are hundreds of people asking questions. I mean, to be fair, I don't really do first come, first served when it comes to questions. You've got if you ask an interesting question, you've got as much a chance as anybody of getting in there. But, you know. I didn't set a bingo card for today, so no bingo today. And we're not going to start today talking about my app because I haven't made any progress on my app. Today, I got a new strap for this bad boy. Look at that. Doesn't that go perfect? Oh, hang on. You can't see the GMT hand is almost covered up by the hour hand, but the little orange stripe matches the orange on the GMT hand just perfectly. A nice little, yeah. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. It's a little thick. It's a NATO. I like a NATO, but it's a little thick. It's a little heavy. I know NATOs are traditionally, people say, oh, it's thick. The fabric itself is a little heavy, and the hardware is a little heavy. I'm going to try to find one that's just a little lighter. Yeah, it's a Seiko mod that I built in H34. Reminiscent of the Tudor Black Bay Pro. Got those snowflake hands like a Tudor. Similar in design. Anyway, yeah, that's what I'm wearing. It goes with my white shirt. See, look, I got gray, white, little pop of orange. I'm feeling it today. Okay, let's take questions. And this first question is going to be from Oxyprod. It's finally your time, my friend. Oxyprod asks, should I use Walksdale for long range because the Walksdale GT2s seem really good for their price and range. You know, I reviewed the Walksdale GT a long time ago. I reviewed the Walksdale GT, and I mistakenly referred to it as the GT2. I don't know why I did that. I don't remember why. There was like somehow in my head a wire got crossed. And I reviewed the Walksdale GT, and I called it the GT2. I even put GT2 in the thumbnail. Did I fix it? I don't know if I might have fixed it. And people said, Walksdale GT2. What do you know that we don't know? That they've released the GT2? Nah, I'm not finding it. Oh, well. And it turned out I just had a brain fart and I called the product the wrong thing. But now, finally, the Walksdale GT2 exists. And basically what it is a 2-watt version of the Walksdale GT. So it's a 2-watt. It's got a fan built in. So it's got built-in cooling. That's nice. It's more easily usable on surface vehicles because of the fan. On a drone, of course, it doesn't matter very much. Because the drone has airflow. But the key thing it's got is that 2-watt output, which is more power equals more range. Compared to the Walksdale GT, which has, I believe, a 1-watt output. Let's just double check that. No, come on. No, don't go over there. There you go. Walksdale Avatar GT also has a fan. I forgot that. It's bigger. Avatar GT max 2-watt. Wait a minute. 2-watt. Did the GT always do 2 watts? All right. I thought the GT2 had increased output power. I misremember things. I absolutely do. But Blenti, what are the comments saying? I know they're telling me what I'm missing here. Did the GT always have 2 watts? And if so, did the GT2 not increase the output power? Did it just do some firmware shit? Fine. I guess I never did review the GT2, so thankfully I never had the chance to either lock in that information or get it wrong. Okay, well, anyway, let's get to your question. Now that we've established what the GT2 is. Oh my god. Oh my god. Wow. Bardwell gets something wrong, for sure. Should I use Walksnail for long range? And the answer is yes. Obviously, the longest of long ranges will be achieved with analog, because analog, there is no cap on the output power. Analog, you can always buy a more powerful VTX. I've seen analog VTXs between 5 and 10 watts easily, and even as much as 20 watts. Now, that's far more power than you really should need to go as much distance as you could possibly want to go. But the thing is, with analog, you can always add more power. Whereas with Walksnail, you can go with a higher gain antenna, which again can get you very far. People have had Walksnail out tens of kilometers. They list a 20-something kilometer range for the GT2, but with a high gain antenna, then you could go even further. But it's fine. Most people aren't going to go 50 kilometers, right? The GT2 is a fine choice for digital long range, if you feel like going that direction. The latency is less of an issue when you're flying long range because you're not in proximity to anything. A lot of times you're just flying automated anyway. You will have to put more high gain antennas. If you want to go with high gain antennas, then like technically you don't have to put 4 high gain antennas on the goggles, but you'll get the best performance out of the system if all of the antennas have high gain. So I think that Walksnail and the GT2 would be a fine compromise. Like if you want the maximum possible range, if you want to go 100 kilometers, then probably analog's going to be where you're going to want to be. But if you want a reasonable amount of long range, certainly in the 10 to 20 kilometer range, and maybe more depending on what you do with the antennas, people have done it. They are doing it. And the advantage will be that with Walksnail, you're going to have much better looking video, and you'll have a much better time the rest of the time when you're not flying long range. You'll have much better resolution and penetration and so forth compared to most analog setups. Latency is going to be worse. You probably already know that. But if your primary focus is long range, you don't care about that. And you get to compare it to DJI, where each of the DJI systems has a hard cap. The older Vista, I think it was something like I've already been wrong once today, so let me not throw out numbers. But the hard cap has been somewhere between 13 and like 23 kilometers, depending on whether it's the Vista, the O3, or the O4. And it doesn't matter what antennas you put on. It doesn't matter what signal strength you have. Once the DJI system hits that hard cap, it does not go any further. You simply lose video, and that's the end of it. Walksnail doesn't have that problem. So, Blunty points out that the O3 and Vista on the V2 goggles, the range limit is 13 kilometers. On the G2 and Integra, the limit was increased to 30 kilometers for Vista and the Air unit, and 23 kilometers with the O3. And the O4, does the O4 have a hard cap or does it not? I don't know. I'm kind of not thinking as much about DJI as much as I used to since DJI got, there's been all this action again. You can still get DJI, but it's just like, meh. So, there you go. Yeah, that's a fine thought to do. Oxyprod wants to know how hard it is to jailbreak DJI. It's not possible. The V2 goggles got cracked by the WTFOS team. The G2 and the G3 goggles and that generation, the 03 and 04 generation, no one has cracked it as far as I know. So, as far, what do you mean by jailbreak? But if you mean like run custom code on the goggles, I don't think anyone's done that.
I mean, they have. But the problem is the things you can do are not as useful because you don't have access to as much as you have on the V2s because they're rooted.
They've sort of cracked it, but not really rooted it.
My understanding is there's not as many useful things to do on those goggles with that ability. There are people doing things. I don't know. I don't want to say too much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because when they cracked the V2 goggles, they got full root access to the entire file system, and they could do really anything, almost anything they wanted. They did some crazy things with it. How hard is it to crack the 04 Pro to make it go further? Not possible. The hard cap is baked into the video transmission algorithm. You gonna tell me I'm wrong about that? You gonna tell me that it's possible?
Well, on the Vista, you could change numbers that were more core than you could expect to change.
Correct.
Through rooting. So,
but the 04, no one has cracked it to that degree, have they?
Right, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means somebody's done it.
Okay. Fair enough. Let me put it a different way.
You can't. Okay, you're definitely confused. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Like it's not as simple as you're. Like he says, why can't someone make the software run on something so the DJI system have it cap out like 3 watts? Like you can't really do that because. The summary is that these are specific chips on these devices. They're ASICs that are built by DJI or by a company for DJI.
Right.
They're very, very, very particular and specific, and they have sort of like what you call blobbed code where like
the software and the hardware is all tied together, and it's not off-the-shelf hardware that you could just buy. You can't just buy a chip, put the DJI code on it, and stick a 3-watt amplifier on there. Go ahead, Blunty.
Yeah. So... suffice to say, it's more complicated than that. But you can do things because it does have to run some base software system. It's just not as easy as like, oh, we're just going to flash over then do all the same things because it's very complicated what it's doing. And it's also very specific what it's doing. That being said, we have rooted to old systems like the Vista and the Air unit, and you could do some of the base stuff. But you're still like working on top of the base DJI layer, and you can't do so much modification.
If people have the software for the 04 Pro, why can't they just modify it? They don't have that. What makes you think they have that software?
That's not how software works.
Right. Also, you could like extract the software, but it's all compiled and encrypted, and you know, like it's not like, no. The short answer is it's not that simple, and no, you can't do that. And even if someone like theoretically could do that, no one has. And it's not easy, etc. Let me show you this. See if this still exists. One second. Products. Oh, this has changed since has it changed? No, it hasn't. I bought this. I found out this existed. I bought it. I never got around to using it, and it's still sitting in my closet waiting for me to use it. It's embarrassing because I spent I think I spent like $500 on it because it's $179 for one of these. Is it? I actually think you need 2 of them. Drone model. Hang on. Jesus Christ. DJI FPV, remote controller, RC2 mode 2, output power. Ooh, signal mode, FCC mode, wiring. Oh, wow. Oh, you can buy it pre-wired now. So what this is a bidirectional amplifier. You put this on your video transmitter, and it gives you more power. And basically makes your O3 or O4 air unit more powerful. Now, didn't we just say this was not possible? Well, what all this is it's new hardware. It plugs into, maybe we could see it actually connected up. I don't think so. It basically connects to the O4 where the antenna normally is and boosts the signal coming out of the O4 or coming into the O4. So if you truly are looking to get more range and penetration out of your DJI system, then buy one of these. It's $200, and I believe you need 2 of them because the O3 and the O4 have 2 radios. I would want to check. Like I have right here, I have 2 of them, but I'm not sure if I bought 2 or if I bought 1 and 2 come with the kit. Nope, quantity 2. Yeah. Oh, haha, ha ha ha! Screw you! Screw you all! Past Joshua! Past Joshua! Where's the date on this? Is there a date? Oh my god! Oh my god! How long ago did I buy this and then not do anything with it? Date, Friday, September 29th, 2023. Friday, September 29th, 2023. I bought one of these. I bought 2 of these. What did I pay for them? It costs $204 today. Hang on, that's for pre-wired. No pre-wiring. $179 today. 2.5 watts. The exact same product. I don't want to give you the bingo board for Bardwell shows his address on screen. I don't actually care, but 85 euros. It's 179 euros, not dollars. 85 euros. The price has doubled. So, that's nice. Like, yeah, I bought it 3 years ago, and I haven't done anything with it for 3 fucking years because I'm a piece of shit. I'll make a video about this. That's really cool. Think. Forgets it exists. It comes in the mail. Oh yeah, I'm going to make a video about this. At least I saved 179 euros. That's good, right? Oh, God. Anyway, I thought I would tell you guys this exists. Many of you probably didn't know this exists. If you have the DJI... Now, this will not fix if you're hitting the hard cap. The hard cap is, we think, based on the internal timing logic of the algorithm. That's the best guess, because how does DJI know how far away the system is, and why is there a hard cap? I don't know. But more power will not fix the hard cap. What more power will do is, instead of being at like 6 megabits per second, you'll be at like 25 megabits per second when you hit the hard cap and the signal drops out completely. Fair enough? But if you are staying within the hard cap and you're still not getting enough range and or penetration, which many people are, because like to actually get out to 13 kilometers is non-trivial, especially on the stock hardware. Especially if you're flying somewhere like you're flying in a bando or something and you want more penetration, boom, it ain't cheap. And like, think about how are you going to mount this damn thing on your drone, right? 2 of these things. You're going to need to mount them. They have a voltage regulator. They take power. They generate a shitload of heat. Like, there's all kinds of complications here, which is why I haven't freaking made the video yet. Because I was like, "Well, geez, that sounds like a pain in the ass. That's going to be a lot of work. I'll do something else today." And then 3 years later, I still haven't come back to it. And I'm a terrible content creator. I'm squandering the privilege. Someone else out there is like, "Boy, if I had that thing, I'd be so into it." And I'm just like, that sounds hard. But you could buy it. You could put it on your drone. You could, yeah. There you go. Oh my goodness. Gracious me. We think it's based on the acknowledgement time from the goggles to the VTX.
It is 100%.
Do we know that for a fact?
We know that.
Do we know that for a fact?
I'm 90. I would bet money on that.
So I have proposed in the past, Blunty, that it's due to the act timing. That this is truthful. If you have an algorithm that wants to confirm the receipt of data, one way to do it is that acknowledgements go back. There's positive acknowledgement and I guess negative acknowledgement. Basically, one way to do the logic is for every packet I send you, you send me an acknowledgement, and if I don't get the acknowledgement, I retransmit the packet, and there's a timer. If the acknowledgement doesn't come within a certain time, I retransmit the packet. And then if the latency, the one-way latency of the link was greater than that ACK timeout, then I would never get the acknowledgement in time, and the link would die. The problem I have with that, and I've posited that in the past, that's why DJI has a hard limit. The problem with that, though, is that the time of flight over 13 kilometers, I mean, it's the speed of light, right? Speed of light over 13 km latency. I don't know. What is it? How do I don't know. It's an infinitesimally small amount of time. So if the acknowledgement timeout was some fraction of that, like the other thing that's weird, Blunty, is like
there's no other way to measure a fixed distance. It's not possible.
Well, okay, sure, but the thing that I'm questioning in this moment is that it's based on the ACK timeout. So, for example, we know that built into the Semtech, the LoRa chip, there is a time of flight that the chip can report back to the operating system. I'm pretty sure that's in the LoRa chips. And we know that WalkSnail has a range metric that they can give. It tells you how many meters away the transmitter is from the goggles. And that range metric, I believe, is coming from the radio chip, right? That the radio chip way down at like the data link layer, if you go back to the OSI model, someone is right now having a panic attack because I mentioned the OSI model. Like I feel like the acknowledgements are happening at a much higher layer, and I wonder if the DJI has actually hard-coded the limit, and it's not actually based on the acknowledgement time. DJI just said if the distance is more than 13 kilometers, then shut down the link. And that distance is, in fact, coming from some kind of time of flight calculation, but it's down kind of like at the ones and zeros rather than up at the I'm sending you data frames. Does that make sense?
I don't. It seems just like a semantic distinction.
Well, it's different because setting the ACK timeout, it's like picoseconds. It's preposterously low. The time of flight at the speed of light over 13 kilometers is a preposterously small amount of time. And the network engineer in me who used to work with computer networks and TCP/IP and reliable protocols, the problem is if you set that ACK timeout so preposterously low, you'll have a ton of situations where you have a false acknowledgement. And you'll waste a lot of bandwidth sending ACKs that didn't need to come. And so I don't know. But it does make me wonder. It just makes me wonder. Maybe, on the other hand, the ACK timeout needs to be low because the entire latency needs to be around 30 to 50 milliseconds, right? So maybe it's a preposterously low time. How long is it?
I guess, isn't... I mean, don't we already handle radio signals that are preposterously fast?
Well,
Like 5
usually,
gigahertz is...
usually the logic is happening, let's say, an order of magnitude or more slower than the propagation time. That's my point. So you look at Ethernet, the propagation time of the electrical signal on the cable is microseconds. But the actual sort of Ethernet and TCP/IP logic is happening just, I don't know, but it's longer. So 13 kilometers, 43 microseconds. So that's, correct me if I'm wrong, that's 1,000 times faster than the 40-ish millisecond latency that we see for the link. And I don't know all the things going on, but it seems to me like if I were designing a positive acknowledgement protocol and I wanted to keep my overall latency in the 30 to 40 millisecond range, if I knew my time of flight was 43 microseconds, it would be easy to open up that acknowledgement window just a little bit, make the system just a little less susceptible to false retransmissions, where the ACK didn't get back as quickly as it could have, but it was gonna come, and I retransmitted when I didn't need to. It's just, I don't see why you would set that acknowledgement timer so low, 1,000 times lower than but I don't know. Like, it's just a hunch. I'm just wondering whether DJI actually just hard coded that limit in for some reason of their own. I don't know. Who knows?
My argument would be we already know they're acking packets. Like, we already know the system acts.
Yes,
because it's two-way. And the acts are going to be extremely fast because you don't want any overhead, like you said. So you're going to act as fast as possible. We just don't know what the act timer is, right?
Yeah. I just also, all I'm saying is it's plausible that the hard limit is related to the act timer, but I think that's not proven. That's not a given. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's related to some system looking at time of flight in some way,
yes,
whether that's ACK or whether it's base level. So to me, it's semantic. Like, even if you want to, like, it really, to an end user, it's semantic, right?
One IFPV points out that I'm only accounting for the propagation time of the signal in the air. The actual, like, decoding and reading the packet, processing the packet takes some time as well. That's accurate. That's true. Go ahead,
yeah, I would assume that you're sort of latching something with the ACK and then you're handling it in code. Like,
yeah,
it's going to take longer,
Yeah. Anyway, just interesting stuff. Okay. Well, we're 30 minutes in and we've answered one question. But we had some good content. I think we had that frickin' amplifier, man. How many of you guys knew that amplifier existed? I'll bet almost nobody. And I've been sitting on it for 3 years and haven't made a single frickin' video about it because I'm a terrible content creator. Anyway. What do you think about the VR04 versus the EV800D? VR4, EV800D. 2 budget FPV goggles. Oh, that's the VR04 HD. I don't want that one. I want the VR4 analog goggles. There we go. Holy shit, Blunty. No, it's the HD. Fuck. Why is this one more expensive? That's also the HD Pro. Where's the analog VR04 goggles? Discontinued. Are they discontinued? It said discontinued. I don't think that's true. The VR04 are better analog goggles.
Are you?
Oh,
Okay.
Whoops. Bardwell forgets to change scenes. Somebody mark it on your bingo. The VR04 are better FPV goggles than the EV800D, in my opinion. I've used both of them. The VR04 they have a better interface. They have more features. The reception is solid. The EV800D are okay. But I would take the VR04 over the EV800D most days. EV800D has diversity. I believe the VR04 doesn't. Does it have a built-in antenna? Oh, let's make sure I get that right. Surely if it had a built-in antenna, it would say. I don't think it does. I think it just has that fold-up antenna. So no diversity, no patch antenna. But overall, I think it's a little bit of a nicer product, and I think it has better performance. Although you put a patch antenna on the EV800D, it probably wins. But the VR04 is been out of stock forever and is impossible to buy. So there you go. The EV800D it is. Also out of stock. But the EV800D is all over the place. Like, if I go to Banggood... Why am I on mobile? Like, I'm sure I can find an EV800D in stock somewhere. There you go. So, it's a moot point. Or, as one of my friends once said, it's a moo point. You know, like a cow's opinion. It doesn't matter. Comment if you know who said that. I had a friend once who said I was going to rule the day. I said, do you mean rue the day? She was like, yeah. It's a moot point because you can't buy them. You can't find them anywhere in stock, and you haven't been able to for a long time. So, EV800D it is. Speaking of moo, here's a question from Jimmy the Cow, and that is literally why I picked that question. I'm trying to build a quad that'll be able to fly in high wind environments, windsurfers, thinking low pitch props, heavy battery, 6-inch frame, and stacked 8X motors for yaw authority. Don't do stacked motors. Let's start with that. The only reason to do a coaxial quadcopter, coaxial octo, where you have the motors stacked on top of each other, is because you need to lift additional weight and you have a limit on the footprint of your drone. It will always be better to add, let's say I have a quadcopter. It's the amount of weight that I need to lift is too heavy, and I want to go larger. I want more power. I add 2 more motors. It's always better to just build a hexacopter, build an octocopter, as long as you can raise the footprint. The other thing is, it's better to just go with bigger props, right? Like, there are so many ways to solve the problem you're trying to solve. And the problem with the coaxial octo is that with the motors sharing the thrust column, you're losing efficiency, you're losing power. I once was working on a problem. We had a 13-inch drone, and we needed to fly as long as possible. And the question was, should we go with a coaxial octo? And the conclusion was that you get less flight time with a coaxial octo than with a quad, because now you have extra weight of the motors. You have 4 more motors with extra weight. They're consuming more power. And as long as the quad gave you enough thrust, you would just shorten your flight time by adding the weight of 4 extra motors. So you want to avoid going with the coaxial octo, if at all possible, because you get that efficiency loss, you're losing about 30% roughly off the bottom motors. But if you say, I need more thrust, why do I need more thrust? Well, I'm going to be flying in the wind, and so I need that extra power to get that top speed to counteract the wind. Okay. And you say, I can't go to a larger footprint. Why can't you go to a larger footprint? A larger drone will have more drag, and therefore I just don't want to deal with a big octocopter having to put it in my car, whatever. Okay, fine. At that point, a coaxial octo starts to make sense, but I just want you to know you're making that compromise. Okay. All right, so at that point, you basically just have raw power fighting the wind. Great. You just need all the power you can get. Personally, I think 6-inch is too small. Too small. I know that going smaller will help you with the wind, because smaller drone will have less footprint and less drag. But it'll also have less power and less endurance. My gut feeling is I would want to be a minimum 7-inch. Like, there's a lot of hardware out there for 7 inches. There's a lot of frames for 7 inches. But I might want to be as high as 10-inch. Personally, if I'm... well, what about the wind? A 10-inch coaxial octo is probably going to have plenty of power to fight the wind. I mean, I've built 10-inch drones that would go 100 miles an hour, so I think you're going to be okay. But like, you have to actually do the math. I feel like 6 inches is not going to have a long enough flight time and not enough endurance, but it depends on what camera you're carrying as well. But I would suggest that 10 inch is the place you want to be. That's all the encouragement he needed. 10-inch? Absolutely. So the other thing, Jimmy, I would say is, here's what I would say, Jimmy. Build it as a quad. Evaluate how much flight time, etc. you get off a quad. If you get plenty of top speed, plenty of thrust, and plenty of flight time off a quad, don't build a coaxial octo just for the sake of doing it. Okay? But if you build a quad and you find my flight time is too short, I want to carry more battery, I need more thrust, then going with a coaxial octo and doubling your battery will give you more flight time. It won't double your flight time, but it'll give you more. It would be better to go to larger props, though, right? That will give you more flight time without having to add 4 extra motors. Right? So, like, there's a lot of knobs we can turn here. The other thing is, if you find, like, I would test it in a high wind environment. If you find that you don't have enough speed upwind and you think more thrust would solve that problem, although more thrust doesn't always result in more speed. Sometimes to get a higher top speed, you actually want to go to smaller props with higher kV motors. It starts to get complicated. Anyway. Crom has a great point. 10-inch drones are cheap as beans these days. I don't know why. I can't imagine what's going on in the world that's commoditizing 10-inch drones. Why don't you just spend $300 on one of these 10 inches and try it out? Right? This Secure, I have one of these. I'm working on the review this week, actually. For $300, you can hardly freaking go wrong. Anyway. Okay. Oxyprod. Oxyprod, I've answered a bunch of your questions. I'm going to skip this one. Long story short, we talked about those 4-inch 18650. We talked about that some on yesterday's live stream. It wasn't a 4-inch. But we did talk about that, and you can refer to the Livestream Clips channel when Blunty posts that. We have a Livestream Clips channel, Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips. And if you missed something from a previous live stream, Blunty chops them up and uploads them, and you can find it there. Here's $5 from Jaybird. Thank you for the super chat, Jaybird. What are your thoughts on the Hello Radio V15? Blunty, I feel like we've talked about the Hello Radio V15 before. Is that on the Livestream Clips channel? Let's find out. Joshua Bardwell, Livestream Clips. I don't know that it is. V15. V14? How about the Hello Radio V14? You take the V14? I feel like we've talked about this before, but I appreciate your super chat, so I'll give you a little bit more. I'll have to remind myself which frickin' radio this is, though. Okay, so this is the radio. Does it run? It does run EdgeTX. Just want to double check that. Here we go. Hello Radio V15. I don't know that we have looked at this before. Oh, what the hell? Oh my God, with the pop-ups.
I believe we've done a V12 and a V14.
Yeah, okay. Well, why can't I?
It might be new.
I don't think anything about it because I can't find any damn information about it. Joystick guard. Oh. Well, I guess I found that one page. Hello Radio. People are 28 days ago. People are reviewing it. A deep dive 1 month ago. It came out a month ago. There we go. Alibaba. Stop with the pop-ups. Jesus Christ. So it looks like a TX16S, or you know, it's got Radio Master's little jog wheel. No, definitely do not let it access other apps and services on this device. Are you kidding me? Wow, that's a hard no. I don't know. That sounds like a security risk. Jesus Christ. Gemini 1 watt dual band. That's nice. You like that? You like to see it? I like these fold-up antennas. I've seen these somewhere else on a different Hello Sky Radio. These antennas look pretty durable. A lot of folding antennas, I'm kind of worried they're going to break, and these fold down really nicely. So it's basically a TX16S. It has the RDC 90 gimbals. That's the rotary encoder they use. It's supposed to be high quality. It does look like metal gimbals. We do have the adjustment screws on the front of the gimbals, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's good. I like when the gimbals are adjustable from the front. The big question for me is going to be the build quality and the price.
I put a link in chat just for. I found like a table that shows you the different. There's 4 versions of this thing. Like there really needs to be.
Okay.
In live stream chat.
Yeah. What do we got here? V15 Ultra, RDC, Max, and Standard. All 1 watt. Hall effect versus RDC 90. They act like the RDC 90 rotary encoder is hot shit, and I'm like, why? Why is that better than Hall effect? Oh, it's got 3,000 steps of resolution or something. I give a, you know. Anyway. Gimbal LED ring. Battery check. What is... I feel like AI voice talk. Can I... Okay. Can I not have AI voice talking? That's... Okay. I guess that's cool. Black gold gimbal. V15 Ultra. How can I find it for sale or for price or pricing? Oh, well. Okay. Product. V15. Sell it to me. Sell it to me! RDC. Max. Oh my God. Kill me. Standard gray. Hallelujah. How much is it? How much is it? I cannot find out how much it is. I have to call this number.
I think they're too new.
Well, I can't really comment on it until I know the pricing. I had the RDC 90 on Alibaba. I don't want to start order. Add to cart. 136. Oh, here we go. Hallelujah. Here it is. Standard version, black gray, 136. Max version, 177. Wow, that is not much of an uptilt for the Max. Oh, I see. Ultra, 234. That's still... So between $130 and $230, if you compare that to the Radio Master TX16S Max, not the Mark II, Mark III, $269. Okay, there you go. Buy this instead. 1,000 times out of 1,000, buy this instead. Because here's the thing. Like, what is this Hello Radio V15 got? Like, Radio Master has been around forever. They make a good product. They work with Express LRS. They work with Edge TX. They support the projects. Like, they are good for quote unquote the hobby. They are good for the individual customers. They're like a known quantity, and generally it's good. Okay. Now, Hello Radio is less of a known quantity. They're newer. They haven't been around as long. They've been around for a little while. But I feel like I deserve a discount for buying the Hello Radio. And the pricing is very similar. Not the $269, $231. That's $40. That's not nothing. I'm getting a little bit of a discount, I guess. Okay, so Radio Master doesn't have AI voice. I feel like I would buy the Radio Master and I would know what I was getting. I do like those antennas. It does look a little smaller. I don't know. Quality excellent. Design is beautiful. Wow. It's the same review twice. Anyway. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. From what I saw, I don't hate it. Not having AI voice is a massive benefit. Exactly. What does battery check mean? Sounds like something you would want, doesn't it? JB, how much better is the Vaz Avenger than the Crosshair Extreme? I don't think... was that the Avenger? Oh, what's this one? Isn't that also the Avenger? Oh, the 18 is a different one. Don't buy this antenna. What? Whoa, Bardwell, coming in hot. Vaz makes good antennas. Don't get me wrong. Any larger antenna like this cannot mount on the SMA. This is a design defect, and it's unacceptable. This will break. How do I know? Well, you don't know that, Bardwell. You're just talking out your ass. I talked to a guy who emailed me. He said he had a problem with his Vaz Avenger. Long story short, this guy bought 20 of these. Every single one of them broke because they were being mounted, basically. He hard mounted them on the SMA. And then the stress of the antenna itself being so long broke the SMA right here. Every larger antenna, now where's the line between large and small? I don't know. But any larger antenna like this must have some kind of mounting that is not the SMA connector. Okay? Too often we see they do something like this, and it's just soldered on there. Oh, that's a lot of solder. It will break eventually from the stress. So what they should have done is they should have used some kind of a 3D print to mount it so that the SMA was not under any stress. But like, you give me an antenna like this, it makes me think you want me to hard mount it. Hold on. Well, phooey. Well, phooey.
Put links in the chat. I think those are the two he's talking about.
Okay. I'm trying to find this other... No, I can't find it. There's another antenna from TrueRC, the Line Air, that had the same problem, and they fixed it. The TrueRC Line Air had this same problem. But you see what they've done? Actually, it still has a problem. This is not the fixed version. So the TrueRC Line Air has the SMA and then has a separate 1/4 20 mounting lug, which I've had to reinforce with hot glue to keep it from ripping off. But at least when it ripped off, it didn't kill the antenna. They have since added screws to reinforce it. So Blunty thinks this is the antenna that he's talking about. He's probably
there's two.
right. Yeah,
I linked the two. Yeah.
The Crosshair Extreme versus the Avenger. You're probably right. Now, this Avenger is much closer than the Crosshair Extreme in size. 12 dBi versus 10 dBi, so similar. So the Crosshair Extreme is a crosshair antenna design. Let me see if I can find a picture of what that looks like without the plastic shell. This is a good one. So a crosshair antenna, there are two elements. One is this base plate at the bottom, and one is this crosshair element here. And the separation between the base plate and the crosshair is part of how you tune the antenna. And the advantage of a crosshair is it has similar... So the advantage of a patch antenna is that you just print the patch antenna onto a PCB, and it's very easy to mass produce. But the disadvantage of a patch antenna is that you have the same sort of ground plane and radiating element, but it's just the thickness of the PCB. And tuning it, the inductance of the PCB is not ideal. And basically, with a patch antenna, you will almost always lose a lot of efficiency. Maybe not a lot. I've heard numbers like 80% efficiency for a patch antenna. Because you're limited by the thickness of the PCB and the substrate material of the PCB and its impedance. Impedance is, I think, the right term. So a crosshair antenna gives you some of that ease of manufacture and repeatability, but you can then space them to get the impedance correct, and you get a nice high gain antenna that's easy to relatively easy to mass produce, not as easy as a patch, but you get better efficiency. That's a crosshair. So this antenna here, that's what that is internally. Okay? You just have this little plastic case on it. What the Avenger does is it adds a waveguide to the crosshair to give it just a little bit more directionality. How do I know that? Well, I read it right here. It increases the gain and the axial ratio. So you're going to get a little bit higher gain, 12.5 versus 10.25. So about 2 dB of extra gain. And a higher axial ratio. Axial ratio 0.99, axial ratio 0.99. Wait a minute. I thought it said at a higher axial ratio. Well, that doesn't make sense. The axial ratio is how polarized when we say it's left-hand polarized, is it all the way left-hand polarized or just like a little bit left-hand polarized? The higher the axial ratio, the better the circular polarization will do what it's intended to do. And lower axial ratio means like technically it's a little bit left-hand polarized or right-hand polarized, but actually it's kind of mostly just linear. A lot of FPV antennas that say they're right-hand or left-hand polarized, if you actually measure them, they have shitty axial ratio, and they're basically just kind of mostly linear antennas. So the text says that the Avenger has better axial ratio, but then the specs say that it doesn't, so who knows what to make of that. Basically, the Avenger has 2 extra dB of gain from the waveguide. That's the answer. All right. For a long-range build today, what would make you choose 7-inch, 8-inch, or 10-inch? Long story short, larger props are always more efficient at making a given amount of thrust. Okay? So if your goal is, so like you want to fly, therefore you need enough thrust to get your aircraft in the air, and then you need a little bit more thrust to be able to maneuver, fight the wind, and so on. The minimum thrust to weight ratio that I like to see for a drone is around 2 to 3 to 1. And then you say, like, with like a 2 to 1 thrust to weight ratio, you can fly, but you have almost no headroom left for maneuvering. And so it would be easy to get going quick enough that you then don't have enough throttle to avoid crashing or something. 3 to 1, it starts to get pretty manageable, but still not great. And then when we get to like high-powered racing and freestyle drones, we get thrust-to-weight ratios in the 8 to 12 to 1 range. Much higher. But those aren't made for long range. So we need enough thrust to get in the air. And we're going to target, let's say, a 3 to 1 thrust-to-weight ratio. How do we make that thrust? We can have a small prop spinning quickly. We can have a large prop spinning slowly. They'll make the same amount of thrust. Because the larger prop has more area, it pushes more air. The power required to spin a prop at a given RPM increases roughly as the square of the prop diameter. Maybe it's radius. I think it's diameter. Regardless. Therefore, it takes much more power to spin a small prop at a high RPM than it does to spin a large prop at a low RPM. Therefore, large props are more efficient, all else being equal, at making a given amount of thrust. So I would always go with the largest prop that I was comfortable using. A 10-inch is always going to have more efficiency than a 7-inch. And therefore, given I could put a larger battery on it and fly further. I could put the same size battery on a 7-inch and a 10-inch and maybe get more flight, right? But maybe I'm not comfortable with the largest prop possible. Maybe I would like a smaller drone, right? Then I would choose a 7-inch. And the question is, how much flight time am I going to be able to get, right? And obviously that's not a question that's trivial to answer. If I didn't know, I would always go with a larger prop until I got to such a large prop that I was like, this is insane. This is too much. Like a 13-inch drone is going to be bigger, heavier, more expensive than like a 7-inch drone. So if I can get the job done with a smaller one, I probably will. It's going to be less expensive to build, to maintain. I'm going to have smaller motors. I'm going to probably have a smaller battery, but I'm going to get less flight time. So we start with the question, how much flight time do I need? Can I get that flight time on a 7-inch drone? If so, maybe I'm okay with it. On the other hand, if I have the budget and I don't mind the size and weight and space of a larger drone, I'm always going to have more headroom with a larger drone. Thank you for a $10 super chat from Jay Waller 89. What's the difference between the V6 CNC gimbals and the AGO gimbals on the TX16S 16 Max? The AG2 gimbal. Oh, yeah. AGO2. He wrote the letter O and it confused me. AGO2 gimbal. TX16S Mark III Max. Customized. Let's look at the customized Mark III. Because maybe we'll get to select the gimbals. Mode 2. Faceplate. Ooh. Transparent charcoal. Gimbal. Just AGO2s. V6 CNC. I don't think the Okay. Here's what's confusing me. You said CNC. I don't think the V6 gimbals are CNC. They're not advertised as CNC. The AGO2 gimbals are CNC. The alternative is the V6 quad bearing Hall effect gimbals. So the difference between the CNC AGO1 and AGO2 gimbals and the standard Hall effect gimbals are that the Hall effect gimbals have a plastic frame instead of a milled CNC milled metal frame. That's the main difference. The plastic frame has more flex. It has less weight. Functionally, the gimbals are pretty much the same. They have the same adjustment screws on the front. Do the AGO2s, are they digital? Or are they also Hall effect? No, they're Hall effect. They have the same Hall effect sensors. So the difference is that the Hall effect, the standard Hall effect gimbals, the V6 gimbal, whatever you want to call it. See all this stuff here? That's all metal. See all this stuff down here? Can I see the backside? Show me that booty. Show me the booty. There we go. All this stuff here. See this metal here? That's plastic on the standard Hall effect gimbal. So it's mostly about stiffness and weight and heft. As far as pure performance goes, they're very comparable. In my opinion, it's more about feel. Spider Mouse wants to know about the GEP-RC crocodile, but I kind of checked out after he started talking about 10-inch drones. Has he commented on it? No, but I will. Because you know why? You know what got me? I saw that little Discord mark next to your comment, and I knew you were in the Discord, and I paid just that little bit more attention to. I pay attention to everybody, but I pay. You know, every parent loves all their children equally, but there's always one child they love just a little bit more, and if you were that child, then your siblings hate you. But I was that child too, so I know how it feels. I pay a little bit of extra attention to the patrons in the Discord server because they're patrons. They join my Patreon, and they get a little bonus on the live stream. Geparcy Crocodile 75. I hate the fact that it has this plastic side plates. I would rip those off immediately. I hate plastic side plates. They just get in the way of maintaining the drone. Front end. Is that plastic front end? That's going to break, but hopefully you don't crash a 7-inch very often, so maybe it's okay. I generally like to see a metal front end for durability. Why can't I find this on Geparcy's page? Why doesn't this exist? It doesn't exist. Geparcy says it doesn't exist. Yeah, it's not. I mean, my main thought is it doesn't seem to exist, so my comments on it are not really relevant. It kind of looks like a Moz 27 or a Moz 7. It's wide body, got a lot of room in there for activities. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, anyway, there you go. So Justin Waller is showing me this on the TX16S Mark III non-max page. About going back to the question about the CNC gimbals. V6 CNC Hall gimbals. New V6 quad bearing. I think the CNC just is. I think that's a misprint. Because the whole point of the AGO1, AGO2 gimbals is they're the CNC gimbals. If the standard gimbals are now CNC, what's the advantage of the AGO1 and AGO2s? I think that's just a misprint. Yeah. That's my opinion about that. At least we know where you got it, though. Why is it important to have EdgeTX on a radio? You know, when I talk about radios, the first thing I say is it doesn't have EdgeTX on it. It's dead to me. Why is that? And the answer is that, at least in the world of FPV drones, EdgeTX is the sort of cultural standard. Okay? If I'm going to fly a bind and fly plane and I buy a Spectrum, you know, a Spectrum bind and fly plane, well, I'm going to fly that with a Spectrum radio or a Spectrum receiver. I'm in the Spectrum ecosystem. Okay? And I don't expect Spectrum radios to have EdgeTX on them. I'm not that. When you're in the Spectrum ecosystem, because here's the thing. If I buy a Spectrum bind and fly plane and I have a problem with it, when I go try to get help, what radio is every single person going to assume that I have? This is what it boils down to. If I buy a Spectrum bind and fly plane and I want help with it, every single person who helps me, whether it's the guy at the hobby shop who I'm talking to face to face, or whether it's a YouTube channel that I found, they all are going to assume I have a Spectrum radio. And so my ability to help myself be successful with this vehicle is going to hinge on me having a Spectrum radio. And if I have decided that I'm going to fly that Spectrum plane with an EdgeTX radio, I'm going to make a lot more work for myself. Sometimes we do that in life. In the FPV community, OpenTX, which now has become EdgeTX, is the standard. It's the cultural standard. It's what we've all settled on. Why did we settle on it? Well, a long, long time ago, people got into FPV and they didn't want to spend $1,000 on a Futaba or a Spectrum radio. And then some Chinese company went, here's a crappy radio for $60. And it runs this open source operating system called OpenTX. And we all went, that's for me! Because if there's one thing that's been true as long as FPV has been a hobby, it's that we will always make our life more difficult if it means saving money. Well, this thing was made for a computer programmer. It's completely not intuitive to use. It's complicated. It's a pain in the ass. But by God, it's 1/10 the price of a Spectrum or Futaba radio. That's the one for me! And that's how it happened, in my opinion. So today, if you're in the world of FPV and you're like, my shit isn't working, I can't bind my radio, most of the resources that you have to help you will assume that you're running EdgeTX, and more will assume that you're running Express LRS. I get questions from people every now and then, less and less, but every now and then people ask me, hey, I've got a FreeSky receiver and I'm having trouble binding it. And more I'm like, oh, shit, oh. Like, I remember, the FreeSky receiver, you hold down the button and the blue LED has to be on, and that means it's in SBUS mode, not PPM. I used to be able to rattle this shit off from memory. You tell me you're having trouble binding a FreeSky receiver, and I just be like, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Here are the things you need to do. You do them. You tell me where it broke. And so when somebody is shopping for a radio, if they don't buy an EdgeTX radio, they're making their life harder. And here's the thing. If I buy a Spectrum bind and fly plane, and it comes with a Spectrum radio, the advantage is it comes out of the box and it just works. Right? There is an upside to me putting myself in that ecosystem. But if I buy some oddball radio that doesn't run EdgeTX, there's no upside. It's usually not easier to use. Maybe it is. Maybe they've done it. They made it easier to use. They made it simpler. Okay. It's oftentimes not less expensive. Maybe it is. But more fundamentally, it's usually a dead end. That's the thing. When you buy an EdgeTX radio, you know it is not a dead end. Because the EdgeTX project is going to keep going. And someday when it stops going, what happened to OpenTX? OpenTX, in my opinion, what happened, OpenTX stopped updating for the longest time. Basically, development kind of ground to a halt. And in my opinion, it had something to do with the fact, well, is it a fact? I guess I shouldn't assert that this is a fact because I don't 100% know it. But I believe that FreeSky hired one or more of the OpenTX devs. People have told me that happened. I can't assert that it's a fact, but people have told me that happened. And then I believe that dev went and made EthOS for FreeSky. And basically, I think FreeSky kind of like tanked the OpenTX project, whether they meant to or not. And then EdgeTX came along. People just picked it up and started working on it. And it's like, yay, EdgeTX. And so if someday EdgeTX grinds to a halt, all of the code is there. It's all open source. Radio Master will pick it up. Or the community will pick it up. You will never be just left stranded with EdgeTX like you will be if you buy some oddball radio that runs some firmware that some company made that you never heard of and they may never exist again, and it has bugs and it doesn't work. There's all these are all the reasons why EdgeTX is a must-have for me. Because it's good for me and it's good for you.
I found an old FPV news blurb from our notes when EdgeTX was just being developed.
Raphael created Crossfire Shot in collaboration with Trappy and CTZ. Crossfire Shot was the higher speed communication with the module, I believe. After speaking with the devs of OpenTX about lack of movement, Raphael was given the good graces to instead fork and run a forward-looking version of OpenTX called EdgeTX.
I thought it was kind of funny to pull that.
Yeah. I mean, not that he needed permission. That's the beauty of open source, but nice that he got it. And OpenTX basically isn't a thing anymore. I mean, technically it still exists, but EdgeTX has just taken over. So when I say, I will wrap this up. I know I do go on. When I say, if it doesn't have EdgeTX, it's dead to me. It's not because I'm just I'm playing favorites. It's not because I'm such a proponent of open source. Yes, I am a proponent of open source when it's the right solution to the problem. Is DJI open source? No. Do I give a shit? No. Would it be nice if DJI was open source? Sure. If I wave my magic wand. But DJI, it's so good that I'm like, okay, great. Lock it behind your closed source. If that's what I got to do to get your amazing technology, I guess that's just how it is. And they're not violating any GPL licenses or anything. They just wrote the code and they closed sourced it. And I'm like, fine. But in a case like this, like EdgeTX, open source, it's good for you. It's good for you to have it if you're in the world of FPV. So. Alrighty. Why is 04 race mode DVR so choppy? Asks Mark T FPV. Even at close range, the DVR looks like it's half the frame rate. I don't know the answer to that, Mark T. My best guess is that you're using the N3 goggles. And so they only do 60 FPS. And so when you do race mode, you're like getting frame dropping. And the DVR has problems with it. That's my best guess. Is that right? Does the N3 only do 60 FPS? I made a couple of insertions there. Assertions, not insertions. Let me look at the specs here. Yep, 60 hertz. So if I remember correctly, they will connect to the air unit at the higher frame rates, but they won't display the higher frame rate. And basically they drop frames or something. And I wonder if that's causing the glitching that you're seeing. It's been a little while since I was like fully locked in. It doesn't say. I'm having trouble finding it. Yeah, okay. I'm having, yeah. I think that's how it works, though. It says 100 FPS on the specs page. Wonderful. Where? Okay, here we go. Latency with Avata 2 with DJI Neo. Okay, so it will connect at 1080-100. But obviously with a 60 FPS screen, it can't display 100 FPS, so it must be dropping frames. And that's my guess. Now, if you're not using the N3, then I got nothing. That's my best guess, though. Has he said what goggle he's using? Mark T.
I have not seen
Spidermouth,
him.
thank you for $10. Sorry, Blunty, what?
I'm just saying I have not seen him respond yet.
Okay. Thank you for $10, Spidermouth. What do you think about the Caddx Ratel Ultra? Asks Atlas FPV drone and thank you for 20 MAD. There have been so many versions of the Caddx Ratel. This is their night cam. Yeah. I would want to compare this to something like the Runcam Night Eagle or other, like the Foxier Cat. Is this analog? It's analog, right? Yeah, it's analog. It looks different than them. What does full HD video at up to 1080p 120 mean? What the hell does that mean? How does it output 1080p 120 if it's an analog camera? What am I missing here? Can I see the user manual? Oh my god. No. Flexible formats. NTSC PAL 6943. Okay, that's fucking stupid. This is stupid. That's not how NTSC and PAL work. Are you insane? That's 16.9 and 4.3. You've just mislabeled this. That is ridiculous. That hurts me. It hurts me. It looks like it's a native widescreen sensor, if this is accurate. So if you have widescreen goggles, which many goggles nowadays have 16:9 screens, 1080p screens, you can use this camera in widescreen mode, not NTSC mode, that's dumb, and you can actually use your full screen real estate. On the other hand, if you have 4.3 goggles, which many older goggles have a 4.3 screen, you're going to be chopping off the sides of the field of view, and you're going to lose vertical field of view. So I would always try, if I can, to match the FOV of the camera to the screen. But the thing is, if I take a native 4.3 camera, think about a circle. Think about a circle, and think about a square inside the circle. It makes sense that a square is going to give you the largest field of view inscribed inside a circle, right? Like if I take a rectangle, do you see that when I take that rectangle and I inscribe it in the circle, I am going to have less vertical field of view, okay? So basically, the wider your screen, the less vertical field of view you're going to get because the camera lens is a circle. The camera lens is always a circle, so the sensor always fits inside the camera lens. So, if I have a 4.3 sensor that's pretty close to a square, I then take my camera lens and I get lots of vertical field of view and I got lots of horizontal field of view, right? Okay. If I then use a widescreen sensor, it depends on the lens that they pair it with and how wide angle the lens is. But a lot of times you're going to end up basically, if you have widescreen goggles, everything is good, but maybe you lose some of the top and bottom of the field of view. And then if you have 4.3 goggles, you chop the sides of that sensor off, and now you've lost horizontal field of view too. So if I was going to get this camera, one of the things I would want to check is I would want to compare the vertical field of view and horizontal field of view in both 16:9 and 4.3 modes. And I would compare that to a camera with a native 4.3 sensor. And I would make sure that Caddx has selected an appropriate lens to give me the amount of vertical field. Because sometimes what happens is they use the same old lens, and then they put a 69 sensor in, and now suddenly you're not getting as much vertical field of view as you would want.
Put in link in chat to a good comparison video if you wanted to see how the Ratel Ultra holds up.
Alright, so in today's video we're taking a look at this guy here. This is a new camera from Caddx FPV and it's called the Ratel Ultra. And this is their...
Okay, so
you
we
want to
got
show
the
this? I don't know
Caddx.
if you want to show the screen.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to look at my face as I reacted. That's two. That's twice. I forgot to switch the source. Thank you, Plenty. Ratel Ultra color mode, Infra V2. Yeah, so the Caddx Infra is the other low light camera that they have. Of course, the Caddx Infra has that extra box. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's $100, I think.
Yeah, Caddx Infra is a pain in the ass because it's got this extra box. It's really good. It's really good in low light, though. All right. And the Caddx Gazer is their camera that has a built-in zoom, I believe. All right. So that's fine. I would love to see something like a Runcam Night Eagle, like a Starlight camera, so that we could compare the Ratel Ultra and the Infra. The Infra beats a Starlight camera handily. But, like, we can already see, in a situation like this, the Infra, you can already see it's better. It's smoother image. There's less grain. There's less image noise. Still, the Ratel Ultra doing okay, but I would want to see if the Ultra was like a night camera versus a Starlight camera. I guess we'll know when we get to true low light. Gazer's not doing bad for a color camera. Looks like the Ratel Ultra can be forced into color mode, so it'll do low light color if that's what you want. It looks like it has worse color fidelity than the Gazer, but better image sensitivity. You also want to look at how much blur there is on his hand, because a camera on a static image can look okay, but then it's got a shitload of motion blur. Wow. Well, that's horrible. What the fuck is that? It disappeared. Look at the blur. Look at the blur on his hand. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of impressed with the Gazer, although I wouldn't want to fly off that. That's getting any color at all. The Infra is a rock star in this, like, basically no light situation. That's not great. I don't think I would feel great about flying off the Ratel Ultra based on what we're seeing here in this lighting condition. What is happening? Why does he, like, disappear into the background? Is there some AI bullshit going on? Why does the things that are moving, like, pop out? That's interesting. Does he fly it? Yeah, look, the Infra is so good. I have my own review of the Infra up. It's like picking that up based on, like, the LED on his freaking camera or something is giving enough to pull that out with the Infra. The Infra is insane. Let's see what it's like flying. Daytime, fine. Don't care. Nighttime with no moon. That's tricky because we're up in the air. It's hard to tell. like what it would look like if we were flying in proximity. Of course, it's an airplane, so yeah. The thing I would really want to see is I would want to compare it to something like the Foxeer Cat or the Runcam Night Eagle, a traditional starlight camera, and see if it's any better. I don't feel like we can draw that conclusion here, and we could draw the conclusion that it's not as good as the Infra. The Infra is unfreaking believable. I've shown it on my channel before.
Does the Infra have added latency?
Yes. Yes. The latency on the Infra is not good. It's not good. And the field of view is not spectacular either. So, it's also black and white all the time, so you get no color. Yeah, latency is... Here, I tested it. Like, you can kind of see a little bit of delay there. And when I was flying, you could definitely feel it. But as far as, like, low light sensitivity goes, it is unparalleled.
Do you know what it's actually doing? Like,
Nope.
So the Infra comes with an extra box for people who don't know, like an extra little, like extra VTX sort of board that you have to mount somewhere, and then that goes out to your VTX.
Correct. I think it's AI bullshit. But I don't know any more than that. Because, like, you can kind of see... You can kind of see it, like... It's like it's... If you watch objects move, sometimes you can kind of see... It looks like they kind of disappear and come back.
I wonder if it's more like a... like, just over time... Because it has latency, it has time to, like, try to make frames up.
It's doing, like, frame... Yeah, like... If something is in the first and the second frame, it's like, oh, okay, it's averaging the frames or something.
Right. Sort of like we do with rapid fire, on the other side,
Yeah, maybe. It could be doing motion estimation. So you can do pixel motion estimation where for every pixel you assign a vector, which is the direction that pixel is moving on screen. And then you could say... This pixel in frame 1 and this pixel in frame 2 represent the same object. And then you could say, okay, well, they were, if you average their brightness, right, maybe you sort of draw out details. I don't know. Like, that would be something like it might be doing that isn't AI bullshit. Again, what you're just looking at there is the Cadix Infra, not the Ratel Ultra. All right. Well, hopefully you feel like you got your money's worth out of that super chat. Very interesting. What's the relationship with Mavlink and ELRS controllers and concrete usage examples? Asks Anubis. ExpressLRS has a Mavlink mode where it will basically, transmit Mavlink packets instead of Crossfire packets. And it's used with ArduPilot and Pixhawk flight controllers mostly that have the ability to accept a Mavlink signal as their control signal. The advantage is that Mavlink is the standard protocol that's used to talk to ArduPilot flight controllers. And you can do everything on the flight controller with Mavlink, not just send the RC channels. So if you have an ArduPilot, and at Pixhawk too, but I know less about Pixhawk, and I think that conflating Pixhawk and ArduPilot there's ways in which they sort of overlap and ways in which they're very, very different. So I don't want to just conflate them and then get yelled at by the comments for being an ignoramus. So I'll just talk about ArduPilot. ArduPilot, anything you could do with an ArduPilot flight controller, you can do with Mavlink. Mavlink can just completely configure. You could set a whole ArduPilot flight controller up using Mavlink. In fact, that's what happens when you open up Mission Planner or Q Ground Control and you connect to the flight controller. It's talking Mavlink. So Mavlink is not just like, I'm going to send you my RC sticks. It's, I'm going to, everything I can do. I could tell you to go to a given waypoint coordinate. I could set up a new waypoint mission. I could completely reprogram my entire flight controller, all with Mavlink. And so if you have one of those flight controllers, you're more used to having ground controller mission planner and monitoring your drone using that. Whereas FPV pilots, we're just looking the goggles and we fly the damn thing. So ExpressLRS Mavlink mode basically lets ExpressLRS radios carry a Mavlink connection and configure and control the drone that way. The advantage there is, like, traditionally the way that this has been done is you will have a Crossfire or ExpressLRS control link, and that's your RC commands, and then you'll have a second telemetry radio like this is what's been used historically. The SICK radios, it'll be a 433 or a 900 megahertz telemetry radio, and that'll be your Mavlink, your mission planner. And so you can either go into mission planner and you can click on the map and say go here autonomously, or you could manually fly it with the sticks, or some combination of the two. And there are advantages to having a separate telemetry radio. One of them being that if you fail-safe your main control, you still have the telemetry. You could still sort of fly the aircraft using the telemetry link. Just by, again, you just tap on Mission Planner and you say hover, return to home, or whatever. But a lot of people like to have a single radio link for both RC control and their Mavlink telemetry. And so ExpressLRS is one of the, not the only, but one of the ways of doing that, where you have your tablet, you have your hand controller, and they're both using the same radios. Concrete usage example. You can see me set it up right here. I've got a video where I set it up. No more SICK radios, ELRS plus Mavlink and TXSRX. And I show how to set it up, and then I show usage examples. It works. Well, I show that it works. Yeah. Vero 101 says, I will say if you're using Mavlink style drones, the security issues with ELRS are more of a concern, especially since the ELRS marked them as will not fix. I gotta say, the security issues I'm aware of with ELRS are relatively sophisticated and intentional attacks. And they theoretically could allow someone to take control of your drone or something. But, like, first of all, if you are in a situation like so who would care about that the most? Somebody who is using ExpressLRS for, like, battlefield conditions, which people are. Well, yeah, okay, don't use ExpressLRS for that. And they're not. The people who are using ExpressLRS in battlefield conditions are using customized versions of ExpressLRS that have been specifically adapted to battlefield, and I assume they've fixed those security issues and done other things as well. So, okay, so let's assume that you're not in battlefield conditions. What is your actual risk of this security hole? Like, I think it allows somebody to... Well, what was it? It had something to do with... There was one blog post by one guy who exposed the security risk. Yeah, here it is. Hijack of control link. The attack could result in full control over target craft. An aircraft in the air would experience control issues causing a crash. Hey, do you know what else will cause control issues causing a crash? if I jam the band. Do you know how easy that is? To jam the band? Okay. It's super easy. This is a fairly sophisticated attack. Someone would have to specifically want to take you out of the air. Most of the time, that's not true. This is not going to happen by accident. So, for most ELRS users, this is a complete non-issue. Now, if you are an ExpressLRS user where you think a fairly sophisticated attacker could specifically target you and want you to fall out of the air, and there are situations where that would happen, like certainly one of the bad things about jamming is that jamming jams the whole band. And if I'm in a situation where I want my drones to stay in the air and your drone to fall out of the air, this attack would be a potential vector that I could use to make that happen. And if that's a situation you think you could find yourself in, don't use ExpressLRS. And when the ELRS devs marked this security risk as will not fix, that to me, that's what they were saying. They were saying that is not a use case that we are going to actively support by putting dev resources into fixing this problem. But the entire ExpressLRS code base is open source, and anyone who is going to find themselves in that situation is welcome to fix it, and that is exactly what, for example, the Ukrainians have done. I assume, and I sort of hear from people who are out there swirling in the ether, whose conversations waft across my ears, but I don't know anything concrete. Somebody sent me an email and they said, here's this version of ExpressLRS that's specifically tailored. They said, oh, it's being used by Ukraine and you should try it out. And I was like, ha ha, ha, as if I'm going to download and play with this code. But they sent me screenshots and things that it was supposed to do. And I was like, so I know I believe that it's true that there are hardened specific versions of ExpressLRS being used by Ukrainians, by Russians, presumably by other people. This whole thing though, when I read this, I was like, this is a non-issue. Thank you, security researchers, for putting it out. But then they went all over and they were like, oh, ExpressLRS is weak. And it just felt like a tempest in a teapot, much ado about nothing. I don't know. It felt like a security researcher who found a vulnerability and now is trying to play the vulnerability up to kind of get business, drum up business for themselves and make themselves seem more significant than they are. And I'm like, for 99% of well, maybe not 99% these days, for the vast majority, I hope it's still the majority of ExpressLRS users, this is a complete non-issue. There's even a pull request here. You can merge this pull request into your custom build of ExpressLRS. You could implement this fix today. That's the beauty of GitHub. I don't know the CLI commands to do it, but you could build a version of ExpressLRS right now with these fixes implemented if you wanted to. So this is even more of a non-issue. R9M modules are, I think, no longer supported, so that's not an issue. Here's an issue. Oh, did this even fix the problem? Captain Bry says this does nothing for increasing the security of the protocol. FHSS sequence is easily sniffed. It doesn't matter what random implementation. You just need the hop table. That's public information that is repeated as often as twice a second. Conclusion, there is no need to add this bloat to the code under the guise of security for show when it adds no practical protection or benefit. There is no implied security in the protocol. Yada, yada, yada. Your changes do nothing to address your complaints other than obscuring the UID. Nobody needs to know the UID. I can take control against your code without ever knowing the UID. It fails to raise the barrier of entry at all. It sounds like Captain Bry has a better understanding of the security vulnerabilities than this security researcher. And that's why they rejected it. or maybe not.
He just so Vero is claiming he's thinking that delivery drones or professional drones are going to be using Express LRS. I don't. That's the confusion here. He's like, why would consumer drones use Mavlink? Like that's what we're talking about.
Well, Mavlink, the thing is, when Express LRS carries Mavlink, the same vulnerability exists. Because Express LRS is still the sort of data link layer. Back to that OSI model.
But I'm saying delivery drones aren't going to be using Express LRS.
This has nothing to do with Amazon delivery drones. They are, I mean, I would guess that they're using cellular modems to phone home, would be my guess. Yeah. Vero, lots of consumer drones use Mavlink. You know, like DJI doesn't use Mavlink, you know, like off-the-shelf stuff doesn't use it. But, like, there's lots of drones that use ArduPilot and use Mavlink. I guess you might say, oh, those are hobby drones. Maybe that's true. Long story short, I don't think that security vulnerability is valid, but it doesn't matter because no one is going to actually be attacked by it. And if you're in a situation where you actually are worried about someone using that attack on you, then you have bigger problems than just that, and you need to solve them. Like the way to solve it, by the way, how do you solve this problem? The actual way to solve this problem is to encrypt your link, which Crossfire has the ability to turn on encryption. And that's why. Like, why would you use Crossfire in encrypted mode? The answer is that you're worried about somebody sniffing your link and then spoofing your packets, which is it is an attack that is possible to do, although it's extremely difficult and requires an extremely sophisticated attacker. But if you are in a war zone, then that is the kind of thing that isn't likely to happen but can happen. The thing about the encryption is, with Crossfire, if you turn encryption on, every time you bind a new drone, you can only bind one drone at a time because they exchange the encryption keys. And then if you lose that drone and want to fly another one, you have to rebind it every time. You can have one drone bound at a time. That isn't how it has to be, but that is how Crossfire implemented it. I don't think Express LRS is going to be implementing encryption or anything because I just think they don't want to put the research in that into that. All right. Enough said about that. Interesting question. I think enough said. Snakehead Lab says GepRC Moz 7 V2 versus Chimera 7 versus Nazgul F7 V3. I'm sorry, does iFlight have a Nazgul 7? Fuck me. Is that true? That's not a 7-inch. Is that a 7-inch? Is Nazgul? What's the difference between this and the Chimera? What's the difference between this and the Chimera? Wow, 7-inch Nazgul Evoke. What's the difference between it and the Chimera? Did they kill the Chimera? Why would they make a 7-inch Nazgul? Is like the Nazgul a freestyle drone? Is that it? A 7-inch freestyle and the Chimera is like a long range? I really am. I don't know why they did this, and I don't know what the intent is. Front-mounted air unit? That's cool. Where's the antennas? Antennas are in the back. If the air, I'd rather mount the air unit in the back and have the antennas be like. Would you have really long antenna cables? That's not ideal. A 7-inch Nazgul Evoke, dead cat geometry, cinematic shots. What's the point? Upgraded. Oh, it's got the Borg stack. Okay. So is this just the next generation 7-inch? Yeah, the Chimera has the Blitz. So I guess they've just gotten rid of the Chimera. I mean, you can still buy it. Chimera 7. Cine LR7. Chimera 7 Pro V2. Spectre 7. I don't know. Nazgul XL10. They got a 10-inch Nazgul? Have they just moved their whole line over to the Nazgul? I don't really know how to compare the Evoque F7 to the Chimera 7. It looks like the Evoque is just the next generation of their 7-inch line. So I probably would buy that because it's like, it's not even, it's a little, even less expensive. But it's just got newer hardware and stuff. But I'm not even sure. The SpeedDB Mario 8, I think it's hard to find that in stock. The Mario 8 is cool because it's I believe it's a folder. There is an 8-inch SpeedDB folding frame. I like that a lot. Of them, I have the GetRC Moz 7 and like it a lot. A lot of these 7 inches are very sort of compact, and that's fine if all you want to do is fly it. But if you want to like, oh, I've got a new video transmitter I want to try. It's this new big fat video transmitter. The 1.3 gigahertz video transmitter and the 3.3 gigahertz video transmitter, my Moz 7 was the only drone I have that would fit it. Okay, I had a 10-inch. It would have. No, the 10-inch was even too narrow. I take that back. So the Moz 7 is really nice and roomy if you want to like put some extra hardware on there. It's my favorite of the three. But I haven't touched the Evoque F7. I didn't even know it existed until you asked. So. Oh, let's see here. We got a couple more questions before we end the stream. We're coming to the end, though. Last of the Mohicans asks, what drone size still fits into a backpack or larger traveling bag? Do I need to make sure when ordering a 7-inch that the frame is foldable? That's the wrong way to think about it. There are relatively few foldable frames these days. So if you limit yourself to foldable frames, you're kind of not going to have a lot of options. I wouldn't do that. You either are going to strap the drone to the outside of the backpack, or you're going to pick a smaller drone. A 5-inch, I think a 5-inch, with props on, a 5-inch can go into some backpacks, but that's about as big as it will comfortably go in a backpack. A 7-inch, a 6-inch, maybe a 7-inch with the props off. But again, it really depends on how the backpack is designed and how the drone is going in there. Frankly, I think that trying to put drones into backpacks is a little bit of a losing proposition unless you're going to devote the entire backpack to the drones. Like I've seen people with cases where the drones go in kind of like a bookshelf where the drones slide in and there's dividers, but like the case just holds drones and nothing else. Like theoretically, you could do that with a backpack as well. If it's foldable, it's easier, but you still got to take the props off, unless you have folding props. Yeah, SX drone, I'm with you, man. Oops, wrong question. Moz 7 V2 all day. Truck bed. You could use 2 batteries for long range. It's a bigger drone, and I think that for long range that really adds to its versatility. Thanks for $2, Zorax. Don't forget to thumbs up the stream. Thank you. Yeah, thumbs up that stream. Do you still recommend the Cinelog 2.5? Yeah, absolutely. GetRC has stopped selling them. Yeah, now they've gone on to the Cinebot, which had some issues in my review. I'd still like the Cinelog 2.5. It's a shame they stopped making it. It was really good. All right. Naughty Shoelaces asks, I have these two quads I built a couple of years ago. I never really flew them. Do you have a link I could follow with steps to wipe them clean and start again? I don't, but the first thing you're going to do is you're going to identify what target is on the flight controller. And then you're going to see if that target exists in Betaflight 2026.6 or maybe 2025.12. If that target still exists, then all you're going to do is you're going to flash them, and then you're just going to set them up from scratch, just like any other flight controller. And if that target doesn't exist, you're probably just going to leave them how they are. Like, theoretically, you could find an older version of Betaflight and update them, but, like, that's maybe not where people want to be. It has its own set of problems. Alrighty, guys. Oh, that is gonna wrap us up. Do I have a stream scheduled for next? What's the next date I have scheduled, Blunty?
The 13th.
Yeah, that tracks. The next one will be. Thank you. Yeah, the next one will be the 13th. So we will be off this coming week, and we'll be back a week from yesterday. 2 weeks from yesterday, on the 13th of September. And I will schedule some more. If you go to my YouTube channel and look at the live tab, I will schedule some more to let you know through the next couple months when we'll be here. But that's going to do it for this one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.